Hello and welcome back to Hindustan Astrology. I'm Katya, and in this third episode, season one of Celestial Satsang, we have my dear friend Terri Rivera, who is Terri Sings with Ravens from, well, she's in Peebles, Ohio, which is next to Serpent Mound. So welcome, Terri. Thank you so much for being here today.
Well, it's a pleasure.
Now, Terry is of Native American origin and I believe Cherokee, yes?
No,
No. Oh, okay. Well,
I
there we go.
am I'm uh Otham, which is also known as Pima,
Okay.
and Apache, and then I'm a whole lot of mutt. I've got, European and African and just a whole lot of things.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, let people, get to know you a little bit. Where did you grow up? And how was, your culture infused with your upbringing and, the things that brought you to where you are today?
I grew up in Idaho along the Snake River and then somehow made it up 3.5 miles to the Serpent Mound. Um, Culturally, there wasn't a whole lot taught, um, but I just knew there was, something there spiritually.
Hmm.
So I don't know that that helps you much, but the culture I grew up in, it was a lot of culture was suppressed, so to
Hmm.
speak.
Hmm.
Yeah.
hmm hmm And we know that, well, I know this because thanks to Chief Goldenlight Eagle, which is how I met you, that, Native Americans could not, practice their religion, speak their
Hmm.
language legally until 1978.
Hmm.
Um, and so that was something that, I think still affects American Indians to this day,
Hmm.
that there's this fear of expressing
Hmm.
the culture for fear of backlash, fear of, just even though it's legal now, there's still, I feel, a reticence to share.
Yeah.
Um, and so you didn't grow up on a reservation, right? You grow
No.
up in normal
No.
society. And so that was another layer suppressing it back.
Hmm.
And so, how did you get back into your culture and
Well, a
what
lot of the
was the
culture
conduit?
was
Hmm.
lost amongst a lot of people.
Hmm.
Um, just I just know going to some of the powwows around the area and hearing that music, the drum and the singing, just just brought it all home. Um, that was a big part of it. And then
Hmm.
being in nature, that's a
Hmm.
big deal.
Hmm.
Um, Beautiful areas in Idaho.
Hmm.
Uh, the rivers, the mountains.
Hmm.
It's all beautiful.
Hmm. So I'm not as familiar with your tribe. Can you tell us a little bit more about it? Is it like a part of the greater like Sioux tribe, or is it like more part of the Utes? I mean, I've never heard of this one, so I'd love to learn more.
Um, that's a tough one. I can't tell you much about it. I didn't go digging. It's just the spiritual sense that was around me.
Okay.
Um, that doesn't help, does it?
So what was the name of your tribe again?
It is Pima or Otham.
Pima or Otham. Okay.
Hmm.
All right. So there, and that's the thing that a lot of people don't understand today is that a lot of the tribes were eradicated because of smallpox or other
Hmm.
diseases, alcoholism. I mean, there are so many tribes that are just lost and we're left with, a handful really.
Hmm.
Um, it's so much deeper and richer than we've been told.
Well, my relatives, they worked the railroads, right? And
Mm,
so from the Southwest, they ended up in Idaho. And I still have relatives that work for the railroads. You
wow.
know, it's deeply ingrained, and so that's how they traveled up to Idaho.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I did come from a long line of curanderas, which are healers, from the Mexican and the tribes. Er, And so that healing is part of my work, is um, listening to spirit,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
running sweat lodges, things like that, pouring.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So all of this relearning and remembrance of your
Mhm.
ancestors has brought you into your healing work and the
Mhm.
shop that you have in Peebles, and the conferences you do with at Serpent Mound or in the area, right?
Yes.
Um, so tell us a little bit about your shop and the healing work that you do and how it's all intertwined.
Well, I tell you, I worked in Yellowstone National Park for 3 years, right? That's where I met my ex-husband and ended up in Ohio.
Ah.
And my husband is Thomas Johnson, and I was a customer of his for a long time. We do healing. I do retreats and bring people to his shop. Never thought anything of it for probably about 20 some years or more. And then I told him, I said, well, I got a divorce. And he goes, well, happy birthday. And I thought, that's really rude. And then after that, he I we were kind of talking back and forth, and I thought, oh, I'm being a little too forward. Well, what had happened is I came to visit him one time, and he looked really gaunt and thin, and I said, what happened to you? And he said, I just got a divorce. And I said, well, happy birthday. And then we started talking. And then he said he had kittens. And so that was his line. I have kittens. And then I came over and pretty
That
much
was the chick magnet, right?
that was the chick Megan. I have kittens. And the shop itself is is 3.5 miles from the Serpent Mound. And we have a lot of different crystals and rocks and minerals, and a big trilobite gallery that is his life's work.
Mhm.
And the trilobites, um, Ohio or Serpent Mound used to be an ancient seabed. And so that's why he can find these trilobites. They kind of look like a roly-poly, um, but they were the first eye systems on Earth. They had the first eye systems on Earth. And they were so, how would you say it? Sophisticated. They had these, he would have to tell you, with the cornean lenses, they could see up close and far away, all the way around 350, so that they could spot their prey.
Mm.
And so here's this little bug. Well, he's got some really big ones. He's actually got the state fossil, but Reagan administration got a hold of him one year. I think it was in the 80s, and said, we'd like some specimens of these phacops, which means many eyes in Latin. And because we want to back engineer Star Wars. And so with the Star Wars, it was that's the whole, oh, what would you say? It's so
Yeah,
that
it
they
was
can
a
see in
satellite
space.
missile defense system.
Yeah.
I was actually engaged to a guy who worked on the computer science programming for the Star Wars system.
Small world. Well, he said no. And then after that, it was later on, some people from MIT came into the shop and said, yeah, we did it. We
Wow.
back engineered it, and it works. But to go from that ancient to repurpose it in the future, is amazing.
That is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the shop, the trilobites, they've been in the Smithsonian for over 26 years on loan, and then he got them back. Um, and so now they're in the shop.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, 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 wow. So, for those that don't know, or they just know a little bit about Serpent Mound,
Hmm.
can you, fill in the gaps for people's knowledge? Like, what is the significance of it, and how does it line up with the stars? That's the part that, of course, I love.
You probably know more about the lining up with the stars and with Draco, um, that Ross Hamilton talks about. I can't tell you a lot about that. When I go to Serpent Mound, I go there to pray most,
Okay.
and it was a calendar, where you have the head of the serpent, it's lined up. Well, here's a story that I was told is at summer solstice, at the head of the serpent, and Hancock has covered that. Um, I was told when there's a certain place on the side of the serpent on that path, and it always dips down. They can put asphalt in there to repurpose it, but it
Uh-huh.
still dips down. So I was told that long ago there was well, not even that long ago, there was an altar. Do you remember there was an altar in the egg part,
Oh, okay. I
right?
didn't know that.
And for some reason, the people that ran Serpent Mound, this certain woman decided it attracted too many people. And
Mm.
so she had it removed, right? And for a while they had a tree there that attracted too many people, so they had that removed.
Wow.
But this gentleman, he's gone now, and he was Shawnee descent, and I think he had some Cherokee as well. But he said that on that side of the serpent, that they would have the well, whoever the holy man was or the woman would gather up these egg-shaped rocks year long.
Hmm.
And if somebody would pass in their tribe, they would put the souls of that person in the egg-shaped rock, and they would place it on the altar. And so when you'd have the sundown on that solstice coming down, the leader would have a really tall staff. And so when the sun would connect with that staff, it would go down and cast a shadow on those stones, those egg-shaped rocks. And that's how the spirits would go to the other side.
Wow.
And I've always thought, I when I met this gentleman, I was with a group from the Boston area, and they had a lot of different healers there. Some people that said they were shaman, etc. Right? The kind, doing all these crazy things, like we got to do this. Here's this man that walks by. His name's Three Eagles. You may have known him as Jim McKenzie, Delcy and Jeff's or Delcy's father that owned the Soaring Eagle Retreat, correct? So there he was, and he started talking. And I told these people, I said, come over and listen to him. These are pearls. You need to listen to somebody else and learn these pearls. Well, no, they just kept on doing their own thing. So I had my own teaching, and it was such an amazing day that he shared that wisdom of the Serpent Mound. And of course, he had grown up around those parts. And so did Delsey's mother, Bev, so they know a whole lot about the area. But there's that at that mouth of the serpent. Some people believe that it's a actual serpent. I mean, actual egg, right?
Hmm.
And Thomas believes that it's turtle. And
Okay.
if you look at old LIDAR, there's two front legs and two back legs. The front legs have kind of fallen down through erosion. You know
Hmm.
how it's pointed there on that hill.
Hmm.
Um, but at that mouth, there's also a fault line.
Oh,
So you're
right.
on the inside edge of a meteorite crater. The mouth is a fault line. I mean, how did they know to put it there at that fault line? And so I tell people when they're walking around, feel that energy there. If you had a
Mm-hmm.
real compass, it wouldn't show you true north. It wouldn't spin around crazy, but it would waver, you
Hmm.
know. And
Wow.
so one night I was given permission, this is like 30 years ago, to be inside that egg. They would never allow that these days. But I was with a Cherokee woman and we just sit in that egg and we prayed. And that's when I felt these star relatives come down. And I could actually feel the grandmother, her warm breath on my cheek. And she spoke to me and she said, you have a lot of people here that think that they can activate the serpent. And Thomas and I have seen them all. We're going to activate that serpent. They've got all the power, right? And she just laughed, this belly laugh. And she said, if you go and you sit in an honorable way, a prayerful way, they'll activate you and you will see some amazing things. Just like Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, all of a sudden the colors are greener, the sounds are brighter. Every once in a while you'll be walking and I'll see one leaf on a tree that's waving, you know, no wind, but just that one leaf is waving.
Mm-hmm.
And that's your ancestors. Like maybe you just lost somebody and they're saying to you, hello, I'm here. So that's magic.
Hmm.
That's sacred. That's beautiful.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, I was also told at that time to go into the mouth of the serpent. And once again, they will not allow you to do any of this.
Right.
And I'll probably get yelled at for even saying it. But to put my head into that mouth on all four legs and bow my head, and then take a deep breath in of the essence of the serpent, and then push myself up, and then blow back my essence back to the serpent. And to do that 3 times. And it's a sacred resuscitation. You're not taking from the serpent, it's not taking from you. You're it's just a resuscitation. Serpent Mound is a restart.
Hmm.
We get people that walk around there and I just happen to feel their energy and go there and they may be going through some really hard times, right? And they don't know why they went to Serpent Mound. No idea. But it calls them there to restart. And so we sit and we pray. Um, the people I've met there are just amazing, beautiful people. Um, my thought, once again, is you've got the 7 coils of that serpent. Well, we have the seven chakras or the seven energy centers. I believe that each one has a healing spot. You know, the big tree in the middle of the, um, or I don't know if I can't point to it, but the big tree that's there in the serpent.
Right. Just so people can see behind you, that's Serpent Mound behind her. And if
Mm-hmm.
you can see, the head is at the top here, and then the tail is down about where her left shoulder is, kind of.
Yes.
So what she's been talking about is at the top part of the picture that faces down towards the valley or the
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So there's a tree in that serpent, and I call it the heart chakra tree. And I tell people, go over there and give it a hug because I believe that's where the heart space is on that serpent.
Mhm.
And so if you're having issues with your heart, or sadness, breakup, divorce, whatever, go there and pray. Go there and pray.
Mhm.
At the tail, when I'm at the tail and I put on these events, these Serpent Mound Star Knowledge Peace Summits, people usually contact me to be a part of the gathering, the Peace Summit. But sometimes I go down there if I want to see the Pacific Islanders or the Maori come to the Serpent. That's where I do my prayers. I really feel like it is. And once again, people will say I'm a quack, but that's where Mu is, Lemuria. So I call there and it never fails. Somebody calls me up and says, you know, I saw the Serpent Mound and I really have been thinking about coming. And, it could be the Maori, and then they show up. And all these different cultures, they talk about Serpent Mound.
Mhm.
It's in their lore,
Mhm.
which is amazing.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, One of my favorite parts there is as you're going up to get to Serpent Mound, right? The first thing you come to is a little tiny mound. It's a burial mound
Mhm.
past the caretaker's place. Um, it's the oldest mound there. And it is so old that when I say the grave robbers, archaeologists went to dig the body up, it was actually petrified or solidified to that dolomite, to that rock. So in my prayers, I believe that maybe that's where it all began. The praying, the thinking, the watching the stars, the watching the seasons. Maybe, just maybe, that's where it started. It loves sound vibration. So at that little mound, don't step on it, but if you go around it, if you have a song, a chant, a prayer, give it to it there. And I always feel that raise in vibration, just that rise. So, and then you have the big mound by the parking lot. And
Mhm.
that I was told, um, when they took the body out of that one, for some reason below the knees were cut off and the hands were cut off.
Huh.
But had it been all put together, it would have been over 8 foot tall. So you hear about these giants, and
Mhm.
people ask me about the Nephilim and things like that. I don't know. There's a lot of things I don't know,
Mhm.
but all
Mhm.
I know is in my prayerful way, you know, that's an interesting mound.
Mhm.
and I'll just go there and pray. Um just to learn a little more. And sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. Everybody, I pray for the two-leggeds and I say, when they come to this site, I hope my prayer is that they feel the energy, they release, they restart, and they can take away something beautiful, a
Mhm.
healing. I tell them, watch for the next 3 days because the next 3 days are going to be full, I believe, full of signs, um, coincidences, messages, different animals, different somebody calling you from a long time ago. That's part of the healing. Um, I remember at that little mound again. I had a group of people and we were praying there, and somebody's phone went off. We should always like leave your phones, right? But this time I said, just look at it and see who it is because maybe they needed those prayers today. And this woman, she turned the phone and showed everybody, and it said United States. It
Wow.
was from the United States. Now, I don't know what they were selling or what it was, but to me, that was a connection that we needed to pray for this country.
Mhm.
And so we did.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah,
Wow. Yeah, it's really a liminal space there, with the energy coming up directly from the earth through that fault line.
absolutely.
They say the same thing in Iceland with the volcanoes, and that's
Oh,
why there's so many fairies and elves there because the energy's coming directly from the core of the earth,
mm-hmm,
and it's a big part of their folklore. And so being in that liminal space, here, not here,
mm-hmm.
that's where we can go into trance a lot easier.
Yeah.
And my experience there is whoever I'm there with, if I'm by myself or I'm with
Mm-hmm.
other people from the conference, there's always a healing that takes place between
Yes.
us.
Mm-hmm.
And it may not even be somebody I've ever met before, but we come together and we have this conversation, and it's like, wow, you know what? I think we both are on the same wavelength and
Mm-hmm.
we're receiving the same healing energy from the
Yeah.
mound. So, from your understanding, who created Serpent Mound?
From I can't say, but what I can say, you talked about the fairies. I met a lovely couple from Switzerland. And as you know, there's an underwater serpent. And to get there, you've got to park at past Serpent Mound on the other side of Brush Creek. There's a public access, and you just park there. And then you walk up the Serpent, and then you go to the gates, the first gates you get to drive up, and you walk down towards the creek. And then you'll walk about maybe a fourth of a mile. And you have to bring food as an offering. So we leave an offering in this little hollow stump. And at that hollow stump, I believe that our elder brother's sister, the Sasquatches, live down there. So I took this couple down there and we walked down there and there's this big stone and it looks just like the head of the serpent or a dragon. And it's also aligned with the serpent. And then I like to take people into the water and And then we walked down the Brush Creek back to our cars. Well, this couple, he he sang a song in Swedish to to the elementals, to the fairies, to everything. And it just tingled with life. It was so beautiful. That did not answer your question about who built it.
Well, definitely, like you said, Sasquatch, the elementals are very strong there. And
Mm,
I mean, from what I can recollect, it was the mound builders that created the mounds in the area, and they
mhm,
are part of the Hopewell Indians,
mhm.
correct? And so this is like because now in the area, it's Shawnee, other various tribes, but
Mhm.
their predecessors were the mound builders, the
Yes.
Hopewell Indians, the ones that created the mounds.
Hmm. Well, and as I said, people watching the seasons, people watching the stars. We don't know what star relatives they talk to. We don't know.
Mhm.
I do know by that public access. If you walk down further, I mean, if you drive just a little ways, there's a place to pull off. There's a big white house, place to pull off by that white house. There's an opening in the gate. Um, and then walk through that gate, you'll see a big cement craft with a spigot, and it's fresh spring water. Have you been there yet?
Ah,
Oh, I will take you. It is
okay.
like, Katya, it's like drinking the spirit of the land in. People from all over the world, I'll tell them about it because I think it's really important. And they go there and they'll like put it on their achy bones, or if they're having any issues, put that water on them. So it's the only place we get our water. It gets tested every 6 months by the state. Um, the people that live there, they allow the locals to go get water there, which is priceless. Growing up in Idaho, I thought, and moving here, I thought, what if I'm never around a fresh source of water again? And then here it is. So okay, so 2003, you've got that spring. And then if you stand there, you look across 73, kind of kitty corner into the field. Well, in 2003, it was a soybean field. All right. Thomas, we weren't together then, but he was up on a hill drumming with a group, a drum circle. They're up and drumming. And then this really strong thunderstorm came in. And the thunderstorm drove them all off that hill, of course, you know. And the next day, there was a crop circle in the soybeans, not in wheat, not in corn, but in soybean. Soybeans a little, vinier and close to the ground. And then I believe that Delcy and her mother, the same people that I told you about that told me, Jim Three Eagles,
Mhm.
the family that owns the Soaring Eagle Retreat, they drove by it and saw it. And so then they reported it to the crop circle people, which was Jeffrey Wilson. And they ended up, Delcy and Jeff, they ended up meeting there. And then a few years later, they ended up marrying, which is
Wow.
which is
Now you
interesting.
got married at Serpent Mound too, right?
We did by paper, 12 or 2012, uh, what was it? 2012 on the solstice, 20 September or December 21st.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, in the mouth of the serpent. But before that, by the pipe, we got married by Chief Golden Light Eagle, his brother Blue Star Eagle, in at Cahokia on 11/11/11 at 11/11 at night, by the pipe. And to me,
Wow.
that's more, I mean, you're married forever.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
Wow.
And that's something else about the mouth. If you've got a thunderstorm, the lightning actually comes up from the ground. So you don't, because of the fault line. So you don't want to be caught in a thunderstorm there.
Yeah, unless it's your time, right?
Unless it's your time, and then you go, okay, okay, I'm ready. Yeah.
So just going back over the significance of the tail, you said you find it really attracts a lot of people when you're on that side of it, right? Can you talk a little bit more about the coiled serpent tail?
Um, I believe that it's connected with Mu or Lemuria.
Right.
There's a grid,
Okay.
we're all on a grid, and there's a grid line to connect with the ancients then and the people now that um, are from that time.
Okay. It's a gathering spot.
And what's this year, okay, so as you're driving up Serpent Mound, um, there's the caretaker place. There's a tree, there's a little sign, but there's a tree I noticed growing recently. I'll have to send you some of these pictures so you can see them and maybe share them
Sure.
however you do.
Absolutely.
But this year, there's a spiral on that tree out of moss.
Wow.
It's like, why? How did it get there? Here's the spiral. And it's
Hmm.
just the coolest thing.
It's a vortex.
It's a vortex. Exactly.
I think that's what the tail is. It's a vortex
Hmm.
pulling people in.
And what's a shame is they used to have a bench there where you could sit.
Uh-huh.
They took those benches out.
Why?
Mhm. Well, one time I was with a group of young people from Ohio State for exchange students, right? And we were talking, and the manager, she said, you need to move along because um, there's people with wheelchairs. And I said, oh, well, there is a bunch of young people. They can help these people with wheelchairs. And of course, there was no wheelchairs. She just doesn't like people gathering. And you're right. People gather there, and that's where,
But isn't that the energy of the tail is for gathering?
mhm,
So why,
yeah,
why stop the flow?
I know. And that's also the place where if you look over down into that overlook, that's where you can see that white house that'll take you to the spring, where
Okay.
the spring is.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never been down. I know there are trails off of the mound that go down to the river there. But we have not done that.
Well, and what's interesting, you come down and I'll take you down there.
Yeah, you take, yeah.
Bring your water shoes and a walking stick. There's
Mhm.
one spot that's like over your head, but the rest is pretty easy walking. Um, but that trail, there's a gentleman named Alan Scully, and he took great pains to clear that trail, even mowed it, went through a couple of mowers. And now whoever's managing, they keep on stacking brush and logs and everything so that to try to deter you from going on that particular trail. And it's so important, you know?
Wow.
It's amazing.
Well, and I find a lot of these sacred spots, they kind of have a mind of their own. And so humans
Dude.
think they can manipulate the energy, and I'm sorry, it will manipulate you. So
It
just,
does.
tread lightly and respect,
Hmm.
that it has a mind of its own.
I never did tell you this song, by that mouth of the serpent. There's a chant that was gifted to me. And if you don't mind, we'll sing it. And
Absolutely.
we'll start with your first energy chakra, your first, because you want to see this serpentine your chakras. It doesn't go through your chakras, it serpentines them. All right, so we'll start with the first one, and we go Hey na 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 hey na ho hey na. Second. Hey na 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 hey na ho hey na. Third. Hey na 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 hey na ho hey na. Fourth. Hey na 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 hey na ho hey na. Fifth. Hey na 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 hey na ho hey na. Sixth. Hey na 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 hey na ho hey na. Seventh. And I always say about the seventh, this is your own personal vortex. Hey na 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 hey na ho hey na. And we welcome you to the Serpent Mound family. Thank you.
Thank you. Beautiful. Wow. I feel goosebumps.
There's a That's something that the Serpent Mound has gifted me, is a lot of different chants and songs along the way.
Mhm.
Um,
Beautiful.
yeah.
Yeah, I was really feeling the serpentine energy. I was imagining it going around my
Hmm.
chakras. And you referenced the Draco constellation.
Hmm.
And I was listening to, gosh, I can't remember her name, but on Portal to Ascension, she did um, a workshop webinar on the
Hmm.
history of the galactic star races. And
Oh,
everything she said was things that Chief taught us,
oh, is
which
that
are,
Jen Hill?
it was a woman.
Hmm.
I'll put it in the description below, you guys, because if you
Okay.
are interested in particularly what the Native American folklore all of the various races say about the star relatives and the
Mhm.
nations they came from, wow, she had some really good sources and information
Mhm.
because it was exactly what Chief said. And so what she said about Draco is that this is where the reptilians came from,
Mhm.
and they attacked the Lyrans from Vega. You know,
Mm.
Vega's the brightest star in the Lyre constellation, and they were
Mhm.
very peaceful people, more elven-like. And
Mm.
so once the Draconians took over Lyra, they fled to Sirius.
Mm.
And so Sirius actually is where a lot of the African and Middle Eastern races, I mean, there's no coincidence that the country of Syria is named Syria. You know what I'm saying?
Mm. Yeah.
So a lot of those Lyran, and from the Middle East, we have the Oud, which is the lute, and that is what the lyre constellation is based on, the harp,
Oh.
the lyre, yeah.
Mhm.
So, a lot of the draconians, wreak havoc upon a lot, lesser, not I want to say lesser, but more gentle civilizations.
Mhm.
And so that presence is, one of the star races of the planet. I mean, the reptilians, they're not all bad, you guys.
Mhm.
Every race has their good and bad entities within it, right? And so the beautiful part of the draconians is understanding the serpent, understanding the healing ability, because as you know, with a real serpent, the venom can kill you or it can heal you.
Mm. Yeah.
And so this is the energy that they've gifted to us. And so I encourage people to really look at these myths, um, not just as, a fairy tale story, but, that this could actually be the actual history of what happened.
There's truth.
Hmm.
I know I was at the heart chakra tree with Huntsman. I don't know if people remember him, a Mayan elder. Uh, I sang that song to him at the tree, and he said that in Mayan, it talks of the Pleiades. And I still don't know what all that means. Do you?
Well, I mean, from what I understand, again, the only real reference I have is from what Chief has told us and the other
Mhm.
elders, right? This is not
Right.
stuff that you're going to find written in a book,
Hmm.
but that White Buffalo Calf woman was a Pleiadian woman, and
Hmm.
she came with two other sisters that actually founded the Mayans, and
Oh.
can't remember who else, but basically down from modern day Mexico into Central America, into South
Hmm.
America, that these Pleiadian sisters landed and taught them how, well, for the Sioux, taught them how to use the buffalo, use every part of the buffalo, how to live on the land, how to hunt,
Hmm.
how to gather food, and that the Pleiadians are our closest cousins genetically, you know, as far as star people go. It's pretty common. I know in Japan they have a Pleiadian origin
Oh.
creation myth.
Hmm.
Hmm. And other North American, South American
Hmm.
indigenous peoples point to the Pleiades as well. And astronomically speaking, it's a relatively new star system, you
Oh.
know? Yeah.
Hmm.
So very potent.
Hmm.
But then there's Sirius, dog
Hmm.
star Sirius, Arcturus. I am Arcturian. I have a lot of Sirian connections as well,
Hmm.
but I feel very connected to Arcturus. Um,
Hmm.
and then you've got Orion.
Hmm.
And a lot of the ships that Chief saw that were orange,
Hmm.
he would say were Orion.
Oh, really?
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah. So there's, and I don't know if you've been watching Blind Frog Ranch or The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch. We're obsessed, of course. And, now the last episode, they were talking about that the Aztecs actually came from Utah and then went down into Mexico.
Well, one of the reasons why I'm laughing, and we're really not supposed to say anything, but some folks from the Blind Frog Ranch came down and filmed Thomas as far as the connection of the crater. And I don't know how they're all going to connect it, but it is going to, it'll air, I, I'm thinking like January 1st. If you look up Mystery of Blind Frog Ranch, it'll say it. They don't name Serpent Mound because I don't know if they'll allow it, but
Why wouldn't they allow it?
because Serpent Mound didn't want Graham Hancock there. They don't want anybody there.
But
So what they said was, I don't know that I can even find it, but it says, oh, a sacred site in Ohio. But Thomas took them on the crater tour, took them up to the Serpent Mound and to the underwater serpent. So, what were you saying about? So you watched the Blind Frog Ranch?
yes, so in the last episode, they were showing proof that because of the hieroglyphs and other things that the Aztecs actually came from that area where Blind Frog Ranch and Skinwalker Ranch are from.
Yeah.
Um, and last season they showed footage of these orbs going into the side of the mountain and coming out the other side of the mountain. And that is something we have on our property.
Oh.
Actually, I was when Sheldon was here, we were
Mhm.
outside at the campfire and we look over towards the apple tree and down from the sky came this blue orb, and it came as if it wasn't like falling against gravity. It had its own volition. It was slowing and
Yeah.
stopping. It came across the apple tree and then it looked right over at us. And we looked right over at it. And there was
Wow.
a consciousness to this blue orb. And I'm telling you, Terri, it was the brightest light I've ever seen in my life, brighter than any LED light you could ever imagine. And it was this brilliant, gorgeous turquoise blue. And we're looking at it and it's looking at us. And then it
Hmm.
continued across the land and it disappeared into the side of the hill.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's interesting you talked about the blue orb because uh, you remember Lawrence Green, right? The drummer.
Yes, absolutely.
So he worked at Woodland Altars where we have our peace summits. And he went off to drum somewhere. And the night of that crop circle, he said this blue orb came and he said it was the most like magnificent color he's ever seen in ever.
It's mesmerizing. It
And
stops
yeah,
you.
he believes that it was part of the making of the crop circle, which is a
Oh, yeah.
Vesica Pisces. What do you know about the Vesica Pisces?
Well, I mean, that's the portal, right? That's where the two circles come together. It's the yoni, right? It's the portal
Hmm.
it's into a new reality. And so that
Wow.
is the potent point of the flower of life, right? Are those little Vesica Pisces.
Oh.
But I imagine if you're working, with energy work, that's going
Mhm.
to be if you're trying to change dimensions, that's where you're going to focus on.
And for them to make that across from the water source, the spring water, right by Serpent Mound, and it lines up. Now, see, so this summary it says on Blind Frog Ranch, it it says the synopsis is disaster strikes when Dwayne and Charlie attempt to drill down a smoke vent at the bead site. Chad and Josh follow the fault line back to the collapsed mine. Eric explores an indigenous site in Ohio that holds clues to the Blind Frog Ranch.
Wow.
They said, don't tell anybody. And here I am telling people.
Well, we're just giving them a little
But it'll be in
synopsis.
January,
Yeah. I
and
mean,
Thomas will be on there. Yeah.
and that's fantastic. It's just going to teach more people about the phenomena and what's actually going on here, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny. Yeah. Yesterday, so we watch, Secret of Skinwalker Ranch. We watch
Mm-hmm.
Blind Frog Ranch. We watch The Secrets of Oak Island, right? So yesterday, my husband goes, "Did we miss the last episode of Frog Island?" I said,
Because they all go together. Yeah.
I think you just jumbled up.
Well, and if you think about Serpent Mound, it's like that Brush Creek. That Brush Creek right there was a super highway
Mm,
because it would connect to so many different other waterways. How did everybody travel? How did we get corn? But by the Mayan and the Aztec. How did we, they find copper from Michigan. They find obsidian from Yellowstone. People were traveling waterways,
yeah,
super highway. Of course, oh, the people from the Pacific Islands believe they came here. They were they were on the Dogon. They were on the the waterways.
yeah. And what Michael Lee Hill said, is that the Atlanteans actually are thought to be the mound builders.
Hmm.
And they came up when Atlantis sank, and they came up through the Mississippi River, and then they also went over to Maya, and they also went over to, or and created the Mayan civilization, and then they also went over to Portugal and created the Basque region, right?
Hmm.
So the languages are what tie them. I
Hmm.
guess there's a word for Aztlan, I guess, in
Aztlan, yeah.
Mayan that corresponds to the same word in Basque, referring
Oh.
to where their ancestors came from. So yeah, there's a lot of
Hmm.
evidence, and Edgar Casey actually talked about that as well.
Hmm.
So there's a
Hmm.
really good documentary on YouTube with UFO TV that talks about the mound builders and Edgar Casey and how he predicted that we would find out that they were descendants of the Atlanteans. And
Hmm.
yep, it's
Hmm.
all, it's like you said, even within your own, family, history got lost, right? So
Hmm.
we're dealing with thousands of years of lost history, and we're all just trying to piece this puzzle together.
Well, what is exciting to me, like with our peace summits, is to see like the Azteca, Mexica, Mayan people that are reclaiming their ancient rites, reclaiming their ancient dances. They're bringing it back into their culture. Native Americans are doing the same. I mean, there's some that we're blessed that they didn't lose it.
Yeah,
They did not lose it, and they keep it going for the rest of us who missed out, you know, and it's really a beautiful thing.
yeah, yeah. And also to see, the solidarity
Mm-hmm.
of all of the American Indians with what's going on in the Middle East with the Palestinians and the Lebanese. That's been a really beautiful thing to witness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a prayer as I walk the serpent is prayers for the Middle East, prayers for the children and for all the people. Prayers for the Russia Ukraine. Prayers for the United States.
Yeah,
Just prayers for the world.
yeah,
Um, I'm just
Yeah.
one person, but you get enough people saying those same prayers every day, it's going to change the vibration.
Hmm.
It's really going to heal things.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things about the Serpent Mound conference, is that we do a peace summit, and if you participate, everybody is assigned a flag of a country
Mm-hmm.
throughout the whole world, and we organize it by continent. And so you know, one by one, say, um, what's the chant again?
May peace prevail on earth. And then that's Fumi John Stewart. And we were lucky to have her 3 times or 4 times. She usually just does one site and then doesn't come back. So, but she has. And yeah, she'll hand you a flag and we'll say Angola. And then everybody go, may peace prevail in Angola. The
Hmm.
United States, may peace prevail in the United States.
Hmm.
Lebanon, may peace prevail in Lebanon.
Hmm.
And they just on and
It
until they get all of those done. It's a beautiful ceremony, you're right.
it's very moving, you guys. I think it's probably my favorite part. That and the drum.
Mm-hmm.
Just being able to stand around the drum and,
Mm-hmm.
chant and do a little dancing. It's
Mm-hmm.
very powerful. And when you get assigned that flag, I always felt like, okay, I'm the ambassador for that country for the next year. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
pay attention in the news, what's going on there, and I'm going to keep praying for them all year, you
I'm
know?
glad you do that too, because I did too. And it's like, look at that. There's a reason. There's a reason. So learn up, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
And
absolutely. You're given that flag for a reason.
mm,
So let's talk about the next conference coming up, which will be the spring equinox, right?
yes, March 21st, 22nd, 23rd. It's not on the actual equinox, but close by. And we have this amazing woman named Nancy Red Star, and she'll be coming and she's going to preview her documentary on star ancestors. And she has gone to numerous tribes and listened to their elders talk about the star ancestors. And so it, it's just going to be amazing. And she be coming in from New Mexico. So we have her. Of course, the Mitchell Hedges crystal skull is coming back. Um, we've been so honored that he comes back. Um, Oddly enough, Thomas had met the skull when he was 10 years old
Wow.
in Detroit in an armory with his mother. Now, Thomas is 72 now, but he had met um, Anna Mitchell Hedges, the crystal skull, and he went up. And of course, it was at the time, it was in plexiglass and guards were around it, but he was able to be there. And then when the skull came to our house, because we were doing live stream at the time because it was during the whole COVID thing.
Oh, I
And
remember that. Yeah, we had to cancel the conference that year,
so we did
2020.
some live stream, and Thomas got to meet it one on one. And I've never seen Thomas just cry and cry. He
Aw.
said he just felt that energy, and it was like meeting an old, dear, dear, dear friend from long ago, a
Mm.
relative. So, so we have him. We have, let me look at my notes real quick, see if I can. We just have to figure out how to get them all flown in here. Something
Yeah.
about it too is they don't ask for, our speakers don't ask for money.
Yeah. If
Um,
anything, you're donating. I always bring food,
mm-hmm,
whatever, needs to be brought. Lots of sage. You got to bring lots of sage for offerings and,
mm-hmm.
your tobacco bundles and, just it's about giving. I've
Yeah.
always looked at it. I
You,
mean, this is our real Thanksgiving, right? We, even though we may gather and eat on Thanksgiving, we are, for most anybody that has any kind of American Indian blood,
mhm,
we're praying for our ancestors on Thanksgiving. We're remembering those who have been lost. But when we gather for our conferences, that's the time of giving, that's
mhm.
giving back.
Yeah. And it's a recharge for the people there. I
Mm,
mean, so with Nancy Red Star, she's federally enrolled with the Red Lake Nations. She's a writer, producer, director of Star Ancestors, feature feature documentary narrated by Dean Stockwell. I don't know if you remember him. I can't remember what show he was in. Anyway, she's written a bunch of books on Star Ancestors. Uh, Bill Holman and the Mitchell Hedges Crystal Skull. We have Bertram Walker. I can't say his last name, but he is Hopi and Wallapai. And
okay.
so he's coming from Arizona. And of course, he's going to talk about the star ancestors as well. Um, Nikki Zephyr, and Nikki is Chief's daughter, who is carrying on the tradition of the Star Knowledge Conference and what her father has done. Thomas Johnson. He'll talk about the sacred geology and the vortex. Our event where it happens is at Woodland Altars. Okay, so you have Serpent Mound, who is that is on let's see. I like to say Serpent Mound is on, I believe, the inside eastern edge of the meteorite crater, right?
Hmm.
It is connected directly by a fault line to Serpent Mound. So this area that we're going to be in is on a T fault. And so you've got that energy
Hmm.
working. Woodland Altars is a little bit ran down right now. They just sold it. So we're
Oh.
hoping they'll do better. But it's such an amazing, powerful site.
Mm.
Um, then we have this guy named Sunbo True Brother, and he's from Quebec, and he talks about the elder brother, elder sister Sasquatches. He's written several books. He's an amazing soul. He's even got fur on his nose. And what was it? The Hawaiian ladies, they came up to me and they go, "Is he really Sasquatch?" That I don't know. Because and he's such a gentle soul. He's amazing.
Aw.
Um, we have Tashina. Tashina used to go to a lot of the Star Knowledge events, and she's Apache, and she does the light language and has studied with many different tribes about our Star Knowledge relatives. Santee Sue Luke Witt, he is Lakota from Allen, South Dakota, Ogalla, Lakota, and he's a singer. He's an amazing, powerful Lakota singer. Barbara Vitale, she's written several books.
Hmm.
Um, Grandmother Blue Star. Uh, 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 um, Jose Munoz, Mayan elder. Have you met Jose before?
Yep.
He'll be back teaching about the calendar. We got Pookie Lee. She's from Hawaii. Amazing dancer and just motivational person.
Yeah.
Um, Joey David, he's Mohawk. Um, his name in Mohawk, and I won't even say it, is is People of the Crystal. So it'll be good to see. He's on the New York Canadian border. and he's going to talk about the star relatives in his culture.
Ooh, can't
And
wait.
then sound vibrations. We got Lisa Vivio with bowls and singing bowls, and she helps put our events together because she's the keeper of the spreadsheets. Because we have to bring money in to fly people in and
Hmm.
everything, and she keeps it all in order. So we love her. Baba Jabal, you know Baba Jabal,
Oh, yeah.
like an American drummer, wisdom keeper. He knows so much about the star knowledge as well. Anella, she's Hawaiian, and her partner B. Uh, Dr. Arthur Cushman will be back. Um, Charles, Charles Bordeaux, um, he is Lakota as well. We've got a gentleman named Shiva, and he is teaches about the Nagas in Hinduism,
Uh-huh.
which is pretty cool. Um, Debbie Carey Brown and Lawrence Green and Linda Ivory. She put on the event Star Knowledge Conference in California one year, and it was like the largest ever.
Wow.
Um, Tadashi, he's a Japanese dancer.
Hmm.
Um, Liz Morgan, Cosmic Spirit, she does conscious hip hop. Debbie Carey Brown, and then we've got a band that'll be playing some music. So we got lots of peoples.
Yeah. And are you still having the same food truck vendors?
Yes, our food truck, he's amazing. Indigenous chef. If you ever
Hmm.
tasted bison burgers or uh, lamb.
The lamb shank. Oh my God, you guys. I dream about that. It like melts in your mouth. It is the most
Yeah.
delicious lamb you've ever had.
Yeah, and it's all locally sourced and vegan and non-vegan. And the vegan, he cooks on a whole separate area, so it's not mixed up with something else. So anyway,
Yeah. So come, you guys. It's fun. I think I did my first, let's see, Serpent Mound, my first was March of 2019. But
hmm
my first Star Knowledge conference with Chief was in Nashville, Tennessee in
Oh,
September of
yeah.
2014.
That was a good one.
Yeah. And that was when, Chief Blue Star Eagle was still here and
Clifford Mahooty and
Pearl Means passed
yeah.
away recently.
No, I didn't know that.
Yep.
Oh, God love her.
Yeah, she got cancer after Russell passed, and I don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure it came back. I think it was
Mm-hmm.
a relapse. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so, that was a beautiful conference, and it
Mm-hmm.
was my first initiation into all the craziness.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Chief just totally embraced me and was such a good mentor. And his talk from that conference is still online. If you guys search Star Knowledge Conference, Chief Gold Knight Eagle, September 2014, Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
His opening talk is one of the best I think he ever gave because he opens
Mm-hmm.
with this sound of like traffic and bells going off and whistles and all this stuff, and he's trying to talk over it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're trying to listen, and I mean he really gives it to stick it to us in about 3 minutes into it. He stops all that noise, and then there's this silence in the room, and he said, "You hear that? That's your mind every day, trying to
Mm.
block out all that noise.
I'm
Once
gonna
you
look
learn
that
how to
up again.
meditate." Yeah, look it up again. It's one of my favorite talks of his.
Mm-hmm.
So, that gives you guys a little taste of, what we do at the conference. And of course, there's
Mhm.
always, drumming and singing for all the elders before they come up on stage.
Mhm.
And, it's just a real inclusive atmosphere where,
Yes.
if you don't know something, ask people. People are willing to share knowledge about, how things are done traditionally and what's going on at the conference, what things mean. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, it's and the website where you can sign up is
AlternateUniverseRockshop.com, and then go to those bars and you'll see um Serpent Mound, Star Knowledge, Spring Equinox, Peace Summit, Star Ancestors. You'll see that our event.
right. And I'll put that down below in the
Mhm.
description box so you guys can just click on it.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, and then she does this both equinoxes, right?
Yes. Yes, we do. Uh,
And
and then sometimes we like to go outside, but we're looking at possible Pilot Mountain in North Carolina
oh,
because it aligns with Serpent Mound somehow, the
huh.
grids. And then you've got Nikki Zephyr, who is continuing the Star Knowledge Conference in Pickstown, South Dakota,
Hmm.
which is in right close by is where her father was laid to rest.
Hmm. Right. And that's the Yankton Sioux reservation home.
Mhm.
So it's significant because that's where all the Zephyrs are. So,
Yeah,
and there's a
yeah.
lot of them.
There's
So
a lot of them.
I need to get up there. I've been so busy with everything on my end, but now I'm like, you know what? It's time
Hmm.
to go travel and see my relatives again. So I'm gonna
Yeah,
try to make it this spring.
yeah.
All right. Well, is there anything else you'd like to say before we close?
Well, I'm sure afterwards. I feel better now. At the beginning, it was like really shaky. It's like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't
Oh, no, you did great. And, it's really helps a lot of people. I mean, to me, that's what this is all about is,
know.
because they say the antidote to any kind of mental health problem is connection.
Mm. I love that antidote too.
Mm-hmm.
Like with the snake and the whole shedding of the skin,
Mm-hmm.
you know, Serpent Mound. And if people are interested in going down in the water when it's warm, you know, I I love to take people. I don't charge anything for that. Um, and Thomas will take people on a crater tour if they're interested. That does cost $100, but that is for a group. It's not individual, which is nothing. So, um, yeah, and we look
Right.
forward to seeing you again sometime.
Yes, I will be there. And you guys, there's camping available. If you don't want to camp, there are hotels and there are um, Airbnbs around the area you can rent
Hmm.
out and stuff
A
like
lot of
that. So,
Airbnbs. Yeah.
there's options.
There is.
All right, Terry. Well, thank you so much for doing this with me today. I so enjoyed it and getting to hear more stories from you and, you
And
know,
connect with you again. I remember singing it. Where was it? At the Star Knowledge. And you were so kind. You just came up. That was so nice. Were you with your daughter or something?
the very first one. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
in Nashville. My daughter was there. Yeah.
Yeah. Still remember that. That was very sweet.
Yeah. She's has a beautiful voice, you guys. If you get a chance to see her sing, obviously we got a taste of it today, but she has a band and, the full meal.
Yes,
I,
I like full meals.
yes. Are you gonna sing at the conference?
Yeah, I usually
Little bit?
do. But
Yeah.
and lately I've been working with my crystal skulls. I have two new ones, and I'll send you pictures. One is from the our carver out of it's Himalayan quartz. It's from India. And I asked him, I said, what name did you get? He says, well, I'm usually not asked that, but he said Divyanka.
Hmm.
So I have Divyanka, and the newest one is Ananta, which he's told me it's a two-faced skull. But he said something to the fact Ananta is a god in Hinduism,
Yes,
and
I forget what it means, but yeah, it's a Sanskrit word.
and he sleeps on a serpent.
Mm.
So yeah,
Perfect.
I work with them. So
Yeah, well, we'll have to stop by the shop and see what you guys are up to over there. Check everything
sounds
out.
good.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, thank you so much, Terry. I so appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Blessings to you. Namaste. And I look forward to seeing the new episode on Blind Frog Ranch.
I know you have to tell your husband, and I'll tell Thomas I said something, and he goes, "You did what? You're not supposed to. You're supposed to be sworn to secrecy." And it's like, well, I'm a raven.
Well, and we're just giving a little heads up.
Well, and it's
Like,
on the internet too. It's got the
well, and it's
episodes down there.
January 1st, people are sleeping in and stuff. They're not going to remember. So this is your warning to put it on your calendar
Yeah,
that
I'm
it will
trying
be
to
on that night. Um, so I look forward to it.
try to see what episode it is. Episode airs January 1st, 2025. So
And
it's
that's Discovery Channel. And it
yeah,
usually is like around 8 p.m., maybe 9 p.m. It depends. Sometimes they'll show last week's episode at 8, and then they do the full episode at 9
yeah. And who
one.
knows? Thomas
So
might only be on there just like a little blurb. The guy that came out was, what's the geologist's name? Is
um
it Chad or I can't know.
can't
I can't
remember.
remember. Greg or something. Anyway, Eric. It's Eric.
Okay.
So it's Thomas and Eric talking, the
Okay.
geologist. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I cannot wait to hear what they have uncovered. So
Mm-hmm.
stay tuned.
All right.
And hopefully, you guys will check out the conference in the spring. So
Yeah.
until further ado, till next time, we'll see you later. Take
Later.
care. Bye.
Later.